Welcome to the Athlete Insights Podcast, hosted by Yash Pad Day, a podcast focused on letting athletes tell their journeys in their sport. This podcast is presented by Boxed Water. Boxed water is better.
Welcome into another episode of the Athlete Insights Podcast. Today I've got my guest, Anthony Alexander Jr. He's a track and field athlete from Berea Mid-Park High School. He's now graduated from there recently. He's going to Iowa Central next year to pursue that in the collegiate space. So, Anthony, I know it might be a little busy with moving and all the different hurdles that come with moving in that regard. No pun intended. But I'm excited that you're joining me, and I'm happy that you chose to come on and chop it up with me for sure.
Yeah, no problem at all. My pleasure.
So let's go back to let's think about when I talk to my athletes. I always like to go back to the beginning. So what was the first moment that you felt like, hey, like sport is my thing, or what was the first interaction that you had with sport in general? Not only track and field, just sport in general, if you may.
The first moment that I realized that I've seen someone had a passion for a sport was like watching LeBron James. Like, if you see LeBron, you see how passionate he is at playing basketball. Like, you see all the emotions he goes through in the game of getting mad, getting angry, ready to literally fight people sometimes, but he keeps his composure. Like, that passion is what I wanted for a sport. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, now I want to do sports, because just seeing him be passionate and be amazing at the sport, I'm like, I want to do that.
Gotcha. And that's ironic because, again, I first started watching sport. Basketball was my first love. Started watching LeBron in 2003 when he first came on the scene from St. Mary's St. Vincent High School up there in Ohio as well. So it's kind of ironic that both of us kind of had the same kind of guy that really inspired us to get into the sports space. So was basketball, is it safe to assume that basketball was your first love, and kind of how did that change into now you're doing track and field, and kind of how did that change go about from basketball to transitioning to track and field, if I may?
So basketball was my first love. I think I used to play basketball like literally every day. I used to train and everything, but it was kind of hard to get a lot of playing time because the coaches didn't want to play me really. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, well, in basketball, you have to be 6 foot plus to eventually make the NBA, and it's just going up more. So I took that into realistic, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to make it in basketball. I want to see what I'm going to make it in. So then my passion transferred to track and field, because I'm already quick. I have all the attributes already for track and field. So I'm like, let me just start that.
Gotcha. And what age did that transition happen, or did you really start focusing in or taking or looking at track and field as the serious option for you and passion for you?
I would say around 15 to 16, around junior year is when I really started taking track serious, studying, looking at like film from amazing hurdlers. Gotcha. And it's just like, once you dedicate yourself to something, you really want to be successful. If you spend your time doing something, you want to be successful.
Yeah. Because
it's your time you're spending. You don't want to just be like, oh, I'm not going to go to workouts today. But it's overall, it's depending on you if you want to be great.
For sure. And let's talk about, you said 16 was kind of that age there that you had mentioned that you started really locking in track. So let's talk about your high school career. Can you talk about can you briefly discuss kind of your high school career, kind of what you learned from it, and kind of what you can take away? What's a lesson or something that you can take away from your high school career as you move into the collegiate realm?
A lesson that I've learned is that you have to put the work in yourself, because I mean, if you don't put the work in, the coaches won't play you. You have to get on their good side. You have to be amazing in the school on the school side, and then be amazing on the sports side. Those are the two things. Gotcha. You got to be a scholar, and then you got to be a student athlete.
Yep.
Both of them.
And when you think about, I like to always understand kind of the athlete's recruiting process. Can you talk about your recruiting process and kind of how that went, how you landed on Iowa Central? Can you discuss that a little bit? I don't want to. I know it might be, a little bit too touchy, but whatever you could share, if you could share a little bit with that. Uh,
So basically, the recruiting process is coaches, they will either send emails to you or they will send Zoom links to you.
got you.
And then you want to figure out, are they saying what they're saying? Do you like? And what do you like at their college? Because you're going to be there for a while. So you want to figure out what you're going for, what you like there, what you like about the coaches first. You want to see if you like the coaches, you'll like everything else. They'll help you with everything else. And so I've known the coach for a while, and the stuff he was telling me, I love. So I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go here.
Got you. And now when I graduated, Anthony, we didn't have NIL, we didn't have transfer portal, we didn't have all these things that are now available to student athletes. So, and you've already gotten a numerous numbers of NIL deals in high school, even just about. So, can you talk about when you're now, the NILs deals you currently have and kind of your process within NIL, kind of how you go about when you're looking to partner with a company or a brand? What are you looking for? How do you find the best fit? That type of thing. Kind of go through your process when looking at NIL.
So basically, when I look at NIL deals, I look at them long term because you're not going to be in sports forever. So you want to make sure you're rich after sports.
Mm-hmm.
So I look at the brand. I want to make sure the brand is first respectable, that they go along with the stuff I do, and that I can see myself growing with them. Those are the three things. And if those are the three things, I'm going to sign to your brand.
Got you.
And I think the biggest thing with NIL deals is kind of knowing your worth. Like, I've signed some deals where I'm like, I should have raised the price for that. But the morals of that was just the name of signing with the name was way different. Like, because a brand name who you sign with is kind of bigger than the price they signed you for.
Got you. And what's great, and I'm sure that you're probably going to do this too. You've seen this with the WNBA and Caitlin Clark using her NIL deals and transitioning them as she went pro, and those NIL deals seamlessly transitioned with her with Gatorade and all these other different brands. And I'm sure you're going to do that with your deals in high school. It'll seamlessly all transition into the collegiate space for sure. Can you talk about kind of what NIL has done for you? Kind of talk about your NIL journey a little bit. Describe that because I saw on your Instagram. I was doing a little research on you yesterday. Kind of saw you had like 90 plus NIL deals. You had listed on there. So can you talk about kind of your journey in NIL, how you got started in it, and kind of to where you are today?
So the thing NIL deals have changed is, like, growing up, we didn't really have a lot of money or whatsoever.
Got you.
But what NIL deal has done for me is that it has put money in my pocket just by talking about a brand, just by showcasing the newest product or showcasing the newest shirt. Like, I could be like, oh, this right here is the best shirt in the game.
Mm-hmm.
It's 100% polyester and it's just comfortable.
Yeah.
And so what that does, it's like you can make money just by sitting on your couch talking about a product. And I think it's actually crazy how people have to work, but now the college area and high school area, you could just speak about a product and get paid for it.
Yeah.
Which still is mind blowing to this point because a lot of high school athletes.
And talk about the influence of social media in that. Can you talk about how, obviously, 70 to 80% of NIL deals I read the other day was all on Instagram, primarily through Instagram. And you have, I looked through your Instagram, you have about 57,000 plus followers. You have specific brands that are following you and a bunch of NIL groups that follow you on that regard as well. Can you talk about, especially for young athletes who use social media and who have social media, can you talk about the importance of leveraging your social media for NIL?
the importance of leveraging your social media is putting out the right content and like putting out content brands want to see. So at first, I would start off on my highlight reels. You want to be known beyond the sport. You don't just want to have sports.
Yeah.
The brand's not just they're going to sign you for sports, but they also want to sign you to see what you do outside of sports to represent their brand. That's the biggest thing because a lot of people get it wrong. They're like, well, they're just signing me for the sports. I'm like, they're not just signing you for the sports because you're bigger than sports. Like
Yeah.
sometimes people get it like confusing because they know me from track and field. I'm like, yeah, I do track and field. That's how you know me. But outside of track, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a writer. I do everything else.
Yeah. And it's important to have those multitude of skills, especially in the world today, the world we live in today. Having, being a master of a variety of crafts is great. So like you said, entrepreneurship is a big one that helps you in the future. And it's great to see kind of what you've been able to do with NIL, Anthony. And again, I always tell athletes, like, you build NIL to set you up for your post-sport career. So if you're partnering with companies, you want to be able to partner strategically so that after you're done, and like you said, you're not going to play sports forever, right? So you got to be able to partner so that after you're done with your sporting career, you can leverage a second career or a different career path through your NIL deals. So it's great to kind of see what you've been able to do and what you've accomplished with that. But I always, before we end the podcast here, always ask is kind of what's the best piece of advice, whether it's NIL related, whether it's track and field related. What's the best piece of advice that you've received in your life, in your career so far?
The best piece of advice I've received is that you have to go out and get it yourself. Yeah. Like you have to put yourself in that position to succeed because there's going to be some times where that person right next to you is fighting for that brand deal that they want. Mm-hmm. But you have to see, how am I going to separate myself, whether that be putting out content for that brand, even though if they don't pay you, but just putting out the content they love already. Because in the college area, going into next year, I know I'm one of the biggest athletes coming in, and they're going to look at me different just by like all the brand deals and everything. I'm gonna be like, oh, that's him. But I'm gonna put the work in to get the next brand deal that you have. Yeah. Is what the thing they should be worried about. Yeah. Because I'm not gonna be settled. That's a thing a lot of athletes do too. They get settled by just getting the same brand deals. I'm like, no, I want to get every single brand deal out there. I'm coming for all the brand deals, no matter if it's a yoga mat, if it's a yoga shop, if
that's great. I mean, that helps you grow. That helps you really, understand, and you get an idea, you get a feel for different markets too, right? So yoga's a different, market share, or appeals to a different market than track and field, or certain companies, might appeal, but it gives you an idea. So again, Anthony, like I've said, like it's all about, and you've kind of reiterated, is it's all about building using NIL to build your post-sport career. And, if you can leverage that in any way, and that's been great to kind of see what you're doing. And I want to now turn it back to you, because I always give my athletes a chance to provide advice, provide wisdom to the young athletes. So Anthony, if you were talking to a room of young athletes that want to succeed in track and field, or whatever sport they want to succeed in, what's the one piece of advice now that as we're in this NIL era, what's the one piece of advice or one skill set you believe that young people should have to get to the level that you're at in track and field, if the young people that want to do that?
Actually, I got two things I'm gonna give them right now.
Yeah, go ahead.
So one, I would learn how to market yourself, because no matter the position or rank you're in, if you know how to market yourself, you will get value just by saying the right words to brands or what you want to say. You just got to be clear what you want to say.
Got you.
And the second thing is just put the work in and just give yourself 1 year to practice and train and everything.
Yeah.
So basically, I lost last year around 96th in the state of Ohio.
Yeah.
And I put the work in and everything, but I know how to market myself perfectly.
Yeah.
And so going into this year, I ended up 15th in the state of Ohio. But the way I market myself, you think I'm number one in this state by how I talk to brands.
Yeah.
It's just marketing yourself to make them. Just marketing yourself is the biggest thing. Putting the content out, showcase your highlights, send the right stuff to brands, to college coaches, and just be vocal on what you want.
Got you. And that's a skill not just in sport, in NIL, but in life, right? Every day, every month, every year, you have to market yourself. You have to have the ability to sell yourself for who you are and kind of what you are. And that's been great to kind of see and kind of follow your journey so far. And I'll continue to follow your journey and your social media and stuff like that. And I wish you the best of luck as you continue to dominate in the brand deals and continue to get more and more brand deals. Sincerely, it really, you've done a really good job. Like you talked about marketing yourself, not just as an athlete, but something like you said outside of sport as well, as a writer, as an entrepreneur, as multiple things that you've been able to accomplish. So it's great to see that, Anthony. But that's all the time we have for this episode of the Athlete Insights podcast. Again, Anthony, I know, like I said, you've been busy. You've probably been a little busy, but I appreciate you taking the time to come on and chat with me. And spend some time talking NIL. This is NIL is something I'm super passionate about. So it's great to kind of see somebody that has matched passion for NIL, such as yourself. So it was great to connect with you. I'll have Anthony's social media, his Twitter and his Instagram on the video. I'll also put it in the description for YouTube, so you can follow Anthony. You can connect with Anthony on that regard. You can follow my podcast on YouTube, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, basically anywhere you get a podcast, Anthony, you'll find this one. So I appreciate you again. I appreciate you taking the time to
Yeah, no problem at all.
some time. So appreciate you for that. But we'll see you next time.